There. Okay. For some reason I lost contact. I lost sound. Oh, this just isn't going to be a good night.
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, I'm here. Okay. Yeah, Jeremy, try calling into the number right there. The studio number. Sorry about that, man. Skype's just being a pain. Okay.
How's the sound, Denny? Okay?
Oh, yeah, much better. I can hear you. Jeremy's been calling. Could you get a message to Chris to call into this way?
Yeah, let me do that right now.
Thank you, Jeremy. Vic.
Chris, call 818-431-8214.
Hello.
Hey, Jeremy.
Hello. Hey, Vic.
Hello.
Yes, I'm here.
Jeremy, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I hear you fine.
Okay. Excellent.
I sent the message to Chris. I don't know if he got it or not, but...
Okay.
Hey, Denny, not tonight, obviously, because we're running late, but I wanted to have a chat with you about something offline.
Oh, you got it, brother. We definitely will.
What's a good number to call you on during the day?
Just 244-6483.
And what's the area code, 818 also?
No, 607.
607
Okay.
244-6483. Yeah, I'm actually going to be heading up to the northern tier to get away for a weekend in a couple of weeks. And I was thinking if you guys are available, go out and have dinner or something.
Hey, we'd love to, Chris. Vic, sorry. I can't think.
Oh, Kathy says she can hear me on the phone. Hey, Kathy.
Could you guys hear me?
I hear you now.
Okay. Do we have our guest?
I got you guys. I believe your guest is here, yes.
Joni?
Joni, you there?
Nope.
Oh, Joni.
Is Jeremy with us?
Yes, he is.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
And you should have heard what he was. And you should have heard what he was saying about you, Chris. I tell you, man, he was saying some really unbelievable stuff.
I'm used to it.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Hey, Jeremy, Chris was telling me that since your unfortunate incident, every time you walk along the beach, you leave 3 tracks in the sand. Is that true?
No, but did he also tell you that I asked Kanisha to marry me?
Yes, he did, and I told him that it would be my honor, my pleasure, and my privilege to, I know you guys are going to do something in advance, but that New Year's Eve that we'll do a ceremony for you here in New York.
Yes, that would be awesome, man. I'd love to have you officiate our ceremony.
My pleasure. Of course, we'll have to have several in-depth meetings before that time.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to give you guys homework assignments, all kinds of good stuff. So.
Homework
Jeremy,
assignments and everything?
What's that?
Oh, man. I'm not converting, man.
No, I'm not talking about conversion. Not at all. And Kanisha did not ask me to do a circumcision on you, so you're not worried about that. Kathy, it is not public news. Don't say anything anywhere. It's private. Thank you very much. We shouldn't be discussing this on open mic, I guess.
Well, we don't have to worry about Kathy. Kathy's one of us.
I know she is.
I'm going to get her ass here for New Year's Eve, too, and get her as drunk as she got me the first time I met her.
There you go.
So we're just, I guess we're going to have to use the chat room to, to do the show.
Yeah.
No biggie.
Ain't no big thing.
I need another Jaeger bomb.
You better not get drunk.
I'm on number
Hey,
6.
Kathy, we're gonna be doing apple pie moonshine shots.
Listen, Kathy could drink with the best of them. Trust me. I've drank with her.
And I'm gonna bring a barrel of Gentleman Jack.
Oh yeah.
It's a lead foot.
I knew I was going to like
to...
Kathy forever the first time I met her.
What does it have to do with drinking, Kathy, having a lead foot? Lead foot means that you step down.
I don't even think she knows what that means.
Oh. That means you press the pedal to the metal.
What an insane night. Oh, my gosh.
That's okay. This is what it was like for us last night, too. It was like a half an hour, and then we aborted the show.
Some jackass behind me thinks it's still the 4th of July. So, huh?
That's not nice to talk about Kanisha that way.
That's who, baby?
So, Denny, what are we waiting on?
You guys can go live whenever you want. I'm just waiting for your guest. I was just waiting for your guest to call in.
Are we on live now? We're live?
Oh, I gave you her number. Do you need her number to call her?
Yeah, if you would, there. If you just send it to me.
Hold on. If we're live, don't give out a phone number live.
Yeah.
I'll send it to you on Facebook.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear us? Can you guys hear us in the chat room? I don't
no,
think
they don't. I haven't put it in.
Oh, you didn't put us out there yet. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear each other.
On the phone line. They can hear us on the phone line, but not in the chat.
Yeah, there's nobody in the chat except for Kathy, so we're good on that part.
Okay, I sent it to you.
Give me Memphis, Tennessee.
I'll call her right now, guys.
Help me find a party trying to get in touch with me. I could not get the number, but I know who placed the call, 'cause my uncle took a message and he wrote it on the wall.
You sure you're not drinking Vic?
Last time I saw Kathy, she was waving me goodbye with hurry home drops on her lips and teardrops in her eye. Hurry home. So I can't even. There I go. I'm screwed up now. Good night. Kathy, I've got the worst head cold I've ever had in my entire life. I have 102 fever. I'm on Z-Pack antibiotics, and
that's steroids, man.
I tell you,
a Z-Pack is steroids. That's no good.
It's zithromycin, I think, or something. I don't know what it is.
Yep. The Z-Pack is like it's got a steroid in it.
All I know is I've been on it for 2 days now, and not only is it not helping my cold, but it's turning the other end of my body to the Niagara Falls.
I don't know why it's not working.
Well, I guess that was too much information, everybody. And they tell me eat yogurt, it'll make your stomach better. Bullshit.
No.
I ate about 6 quarts of yogurt, and it didn't do anything. So.
All right, I'm sending her a message to send me the number again.
Okay, gentlemen, your guest is here.
Oh, okay.
Joni.
Okay, we can go live when it's ready.
Thank you.
Joni, are you with us?
I'm here.
Hi,
okay.
Joni.
Hi, Joni.
For the delay, we had some big problems.
Hey, Denny, are we going to be able to do the EVPs, or no? Is that too much to ask?
I can't even. I'm barely getting the system going. I'm sorry, Vic.
Okay. Joni, I'm sorry.
No, we'll start the show. We'll do an hour and a half. What are you going to do? That shit happens.
Joni,
You got to roll with the punches with live radio, right?
I converted all those EVPs to MP3s to make them easier to send, but apparently there's some technical issue. We can't get them on tonight.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
I'm ready to go live whenever you are.
Do it to it.
Okay, say the word, and I'll put the link in the chat room. Let's go, guys.
Put the link in. I'm ready. Are we live? Okay, I guess we're live.
You're live now, guys.
Hello, everyone. I'm Psychic Medium Chris George, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Victor the Voice Furman and Jeremy Moonshine Adams. Welcome to our show Vision Quest, where we will try and unleash the power of your mind. It is July 11th, and we're airing live on DTMWickedRadio.com. And, of course, like always, we want to thank everyone for being here tonight. The call-in number is 818-431-8214. And if you have a question for us or our guest, of course, make sure it pertains to the show. Give us a call. We love to interact with our audience. It's going to be a great show tonight, and sorry for the late start, little technical difficulties, but with live radio, that happens sometimes. So if we have to deal with it, guess what? You guys got to deal with it too. Sit back, relax, let's cross the threshold of reality together, and let's have a kick-ass show. If you want to like my fan page, it's Psychic Medium Chris George. If you like it, there's a chance you get a free reading. There's Victor the Voice Furman fan page, and then there's Jeremy Moonshine Adams fan page. And, of course, the most important fan page out of all of them is it's not a fan page, it's a group page, and it's Vision Quest. Just look it up on Facebook, join the group. It's a great group. You know, we put some real interesting stuff up all the time, so get in there. Victor, real quick, let's just go over last week. We didn't air live, but they did a Vision Quest marathon for the 4th of July. Anything you want to say about the 4th?
I just want to say that it was a great day for me to sleep. Thank you very much, everybody.
And, Jeremy, anything?
You know what? I had a good time with my son and Kenesha, and that's all that matters.
Well, I'll say this. You know, as a goof, I put on Facebook, everyone is invited, but you have to either bring meat, scotch, or cigars. Victor went to Jersey, which is just over the bridge from where I am here in Staten Island, to visit his mom. On the way coming back through Jersey, going to where he lives in Queens, he stops at my house with the biggest bottle of Gentleman Jack you could buy and 4 Monte Cristo cigars. He stayed a total of, I don't know, maybe 12 minutes, gave me a big hug, and went on his way. So, Victor, I have to publicly thank you. I think you're crazy for spending all that money to stay at my house for a total of 10 to 12 minutes, but it was very much appreciated, and I did get whacked on that Gentleman Jack.
Chris, I'm very good at following instructions, and when your blog post said bring liquor and cigars, I knew exactly what you needed.
Well, you're the man, and I got to say I appreciate it, and the few people I allowed to drink with me that night, they appreciated it as well. Anyway, Vic, you want to introduce our guest?
Chris, our guest tonight is Joni Mayen. Joni grew up in Indiana on 40 acres of lush farmland and relocated to Massachusetts in her early 20s. When she's not writing, she's a seasoned paranormal investigator, spending many weekends in dark places with her best friends and talking to shadows. She's a hopeful romantic, a confessed Facebook addict, and she enjoys reading other people's novels. She hates pickles, spiders, and negative people, but as she says, that's another story altogether. And tonight she's talking about her new book, Bones in the Basement, Surviving the S.K. Pierce Haunted Mansion.
Joni, thank you so much for being with us here tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Well, you're very welcome. And what you guys don't know is that she also wrote another book, and The Soul Collector. And she was on my other show, and we had a great interview with her. And since then, we've become good friends with Joni, and you know we interact on Facebook all the time, and we just really like Joni. So everyone, if you have any questions for her as the show goes on, please feel free to call in. She's very easy to talk to. I'm sure she'll answer anything you ask. And let's get this show going. Hey, Jeremy, why don't you start it off?
Hold on 1 second, man. 1 second, because I'm on my phone. I've got the, there we go. Tell me about the history of the house that you wrote about.
Okay, well, the Haunted Victorian Mansion is located in Gardner, Massachusetts, and it was built in 1875 by furniture magnate S.K. Pierce. And by furniture magnate, I mean that he was one of the founding fathers of the furniture industry in Gardner. At that time, Gardner was known as Chair City, which they sold more furniture than anyone else in the world, and he decided he was going to build a house to meet his stature. So he went about building this house, and it's a gorgeous house. Their family was never very happy there, though. They had a lot of tragedies right off the bat. His first wife died 2 weeks after they moved into the house. And he married a woman 2 years later that was only 6 years older than his son. So there was a lot of turmoil there. There's been a lot of death and a lot of bad situations that have happened there over the years, and it's led to a pretty fantastic haunting.
All right, Vic, how about you?
Joni, please tell us what made you decide to write this book about the S.K. Pierce Mansion?
Well, I was drawn to the house right away, and anybody driving by would probably feel the same way. I used to live very close to the Victorian in another town, and I was looking for a shortcut across Gardner, and someone told me, take Union Street. And I did, and it took me right past the house, and I just sat there at the stop sign staring at this house. And, of course, it had already been on Ghost Hunters at that point when the previous owners owned it, so I recognized the house right away from the show, and it was for sale at that time. And I thought, oh, my gosh, I can't believe this house is for sale. And it sat there for 2 years before the next owners purchased it. And after they lived there for a while, they ended up opening it up for investigations to try to help them find help, with what was going on and what was happening to them. And I become friends with them. And over the course of time, the house is old. It's been sitting there, since 1875, and it's had some renovations done to it over the course of time, but it needs a lot more. And we were talking about how can we help save this house. And I said, well, I can write a book. So that was when I decided to write the book, and I'm donating half of all my profits to the owners in hopes they use it for renovations for the house because it does need a lot of work. It needs a new roof and whatnot. So that was why I wrote it. But as I got into the book, it has its own story, and I felt compelled to share and preserve some of this information that I've caught and that other people have caught as well.
Joni, I'm curious. What did the house sell for? How much?
I don't remember the exact amount, but it was under $200,000.
Under 200. Damn.
Wow. We should have bought it, Chris.
A day later, I was short. I mean, really,
I know.
That would have been a beautiful investment for us.
Chris, I had $199,000. You had $1.
Oh man.
Here in Michigan, there are mansions or schools that have been abandoned. I mean, there's these huge, beautiful mansions that are just going to waste, and they got squatters and hobos living in there now. Detroit is trying to give away land with some of these houses. I mean, you pay the back taxes.
But the thing is, this is a known haunted mansion. It's been on Ghost Hunters. It already has that lore to it, and to sell for under $200,000, it just kills me because I would love to have a mansion like that.
Chris, one Halloween would pay for the whole house.
I'm telling you, we could buy something like that and we could run a haunted mansion like Sal does at the Shanley Hotel. It would be fantastic. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself.
I don't know if you guys remember the old Abbott and Costello show, but Abbott used to say to Costello as an insult, "How much would you charge to haunt a house?" And Costello would say, "How many rooms?"
Oh God! All right, well, what do we
I'm sure you could probably make a deal with them. They can't live there anymore. The house is just sitting there empty, so it may be an option.
Oh, that drops it down to
we might have to look into that, guys. I mean, That's something that well, I know, Victor, I don't know if I've spoken to you about it, but I've spoken with Tom and Jeremy about looking for something that's haunted to buy and open it up for investigations. And that's one of my bucket list things that I'd love to do. So we might have to look into it.
A brand new TV show, Flip This Haunted House, right?
Well, there you go. You know what? It sounds good to me.
Well, look, man, if we're going to do that, I think we need to buy Panzerati's down in Shelbyville, Indiana. I mean, that's a well-known place, man. I'm just saying.
We'll talk about that. We'll look into that. But anyway, Joni, I want to know, when the owners purchased the house, did they know that the house was haunted?
Yes, they did. The first time they looked at it, they didn't. But by the second time they went to see it, they did definitely know at that point. They had found out. They were in a bookstore walking around, and they found the book Haunted Massachusetts, which is written by Thomas D'Agostino, who actually wrote the foreword for this book for me. And they saw the house in there. Edwin just like collapsed down in the chair. He called his wife and said, "Hun, this house is haunted." And so they were a little startled, but she didn't believe in ghosts. He was kind of on the fence about it. So they thought, well, somebody else's misfortune or somebody else's, fallacies, because they really didn't believe in ghosts. They said it'll give us a better price on the house. So, let's do it. And she had always loved Victorians since she was a child, and so it was a big thing for her to finally find a house, a Victorian mansion that they could afford. So she was very excited to get the house, and a lot of that was the reason why they stayed with the house as long as they did, because they didn't want anything to come between them and their dreams.
So the activity started right away. How did they handle it?
Well, they were just weren't, they were such newbies with the paranormal. It's not like, they had ever gone on an investigation or, he had seen a few paranormal shows, but, the first things happened and it was like they'd scratch their heads. They just weren't sure what was going on. They didn't move into the house right away because the house is lacking heating, and they didn't want to move in the winter with no heat, so they waited until April to move in. But that didn't stop her from coming out periodically, weekly pretty much, to bring boxes of stuff out. And even though they knew they wouldn't be celebrating Christmas there, she still decorated the mantle in the ladies' parlor, and she put greenery on it and two big glass globes like ornaments, and she came back the next week and one of the globes was right in the middle of the floor, like it had somehow fallen off and rolled in the middle of the floor. And she didn't think much of it. She put it back and nestled it back in the greenery and came back the next week and it was back on the floor again. And it was just, it was one of those head scratchers. So she was trying to figure out what happened. So she put it back, and this time they had a bunch of family with them to show them the house for the first time. And they were in the kitchen. They were in the kitchen having something to eat, and they heard this large crash come from the stairs. It sounded like a dozen bowling balls were thrown down the stairs. And they all ran out to look and see what it was, and there was nothing there. Nobody was in the house. They searched, and they couldn't figure it out. And so they went back to the kitchen to finish eating, and as they're standing there, one of the big metal planters in the kitchen shifted and moved several inches. It made a really loud noise. I mean, maybe it went almost a foot, but it was enough that they saw it move and heard the sound, and they're all standing there staring like, how did that happen? So they were trying to figure it out. There's got to be a reason for this, and they couldn't duplicate it. And then as they left, at that point, I think everybody kind of had enough, and their family was a little freaked out. So they started to leave, and they noticed the light was on in the ladies' parlor again, and they had shut the door and turned the light off. So they opened the door to turn the light off, and there's that ornament back in the middle of the floor again. So that was their introduction to the haunting of the house.
Very cool. Joni, I want to know, did it ever scare them? Were they ever scared of what was going on? And did they? What type of evidence did they get? Did they tape anything? Did they take pictures? Did they do any EVPs? Anything like that?
it was funny because they both handled it differently. Lillian kind of wouldn't look at it. She wouldn't pay attention. She still didn't believe it was haunted until it took a long time to convince her it was haunted. And they came at her in a different way. Like, they never really jumped out to scare her, but poor Edwin, they knew they could get him. And, he had a full-bodied apparition pop up in his face after they'd moved in the house in April. They'd only been there a couple weeks, and something popped up in his face. And so, yes, it was scary. It was kind of I like to describe it like Chinese water torture. They never knew when it was going to happen next. It would be really calm for weeks, sometimes months, and then all of a sudden something really bad would happen, like a door would slam in the middle of the night in their bedroom, or somebody pounded on their bedroom door really loud enough to make the window shake. And he was seeing apparitions in the hallway at night. And it escalated. It got worse and worse. It was like, okay, we're going to scare you, and once they got scared, they had to up the ante and scare them a little bit more. So it just got to a point where they just couldn't live there anymore.
Did they try it and get it on film or anything like that?
Oh, yeah. After a while, he opened up. He didn't know what to do. I mean, he started the Facebook page, and then he started getting lots of requests for people to come in and investigate. And so he would allow investigators to come in. So over a period of time, quite a few groups came in and investigated. And it got to a point where he was getting, hammered with so many requests that they started charging people to come in and try to give them the money for restorations and bills and whatnot. So there's a lot of evidence that's been captured, and a lot of it is in my book. I put links to EVPs to my SoundCloud, so if people get the digital version of my book, they can click on the link and go to videos. There's a couple videos on there of activity that they captured, and the different team pages with their evidence, very interactive, so all the EVPs as well.
Interesting. All right. And I want to know, did the previous owners have any experience?
Yes, they did. In fact, I went and interviewed Mark Thoe. He's a DJ at a Worcester radio station in Massachusetts, and very nice man. He was very willing to sit down and talk with me and share his experiences. There's a lot of primary hauntings there that have been going on for a long time, and one of them is the little boy. There's a little blonde-haired boy that people see there frequently, and he saw the little boy on a number of occasions. And at first he thought it was his stepson, but he tracked down his stepson and found him nowhere, near where he saw the little boy run past. And another haunting is Maddie, the servant, and people have seen her on occasion as well. So he started having teams come in too towards the end, and they did capture evidence, and they had a lot of EVPs and experiences there. But he was never frightened. I think they were doing constant renovations in the house, and I think that appeased some of the ghosts that were there. He was never afraid, but they had to sell the house because they had a divorce, and neither one of them could stay there financially on their own. So he said it was very sad for him to lose the house or to have to sell it like that.
What didn't the previous owners tell them about the hauntings?
Well, they didn't meet them, right. They went through a realtor, so the realtor told them what. I think she, the second time they went, she said, this house is haunted, right? So it wasn't anything that anybody tried to hide. Because it had been on a paranormal show by that time. Mark Thoe was on Ghost Hunters, so, it's not like they would try to hide it. But, it was just a different situation for Edwin and Lillian than it was for the Vos, because the haunting just, I don't know if it was just not compatible. I don't know, some people just don't get along. Maybe the ghosts just didn't care for I don't know. Most of them seem to really like Edwin and Lillian. All the EVPs we've caught over the years have, said their names and that they liked them, but they didn't want them there for some reason.
Well, and by the way, Jeremy, on the contract for the house, there was a list of items. Number one, it said roof needs replacement. Number two, it said boiler needs repair. And number three, it said screaming skull in basement. So I think that was a disclosure. They knew about it. So.
By law, they have to disclose that. If there's a murder in the house, they have to let you know. If there's if it's a known haunted house or believed to be haunted, I'm almost positive by law they need to disclose that to you.
It goes state by state. I just saw an article on Facebook about it the other day. It goes state by state. So if it's like a mass murder just happened there, I think they have to disclose that in Massachusetts. But a haunting is something that's subjective. I think either way, they knew about it when they went in. They just didn't care. They didn't believe in ghosts, so it didn't faze them one way or the other.
Right.
And just remember, if someone's going to buy a house anywhere at any time, they have to do their due diligence, including the due diligence. So. Well, our guest tonight is Joni Mahan, and Joni is the author of Bones in the Basement, Surviving the S.K. Pierce Haunted Mansion. Joni, tell our listeners where they can get the book.
Oh, they can find it on Amazon.com or BarnesandNobles.com, or they can go to my website, JoniMahan.com, and message me, and we'll work out details on a signed book. Or if they live close to the Gardner, Massachusetts area, I'd be happy to meet them and get them a signed copy.
Wonderful. Joni, why do you think the house is haunted?
I think that there's a lot of factors that go into play, and I guess nobody really knows for certain. Maybe Chris would know if he walked through the house, but a couple factors. One, he was a Mason, and when he built the house, there's a lot of Masonic emblems around the house in different areas, and somebody that I walked through the house said it's almost as though they built the house to hold in spiritual energy. The house is exactly 6,661 square feet, which I found to be interesting. And other people think there might be some kind of ley line situation where it just holds in energy. The ghosts here are just so powerful. I mean, as an investigator, I've gone to a lot of places, and I've never been somewhere that is so off the wall haunted. I mean, and it still goes on to this day. My friend Mary and Tina, they're caretakers of the house, and so they go over weekly. I go over sometimes. I went last week in Marion's absence and just check the house to make sure it's okay. Nobody's tried to break in or anything. And they were just sitting at the base of the grand staircase talking, and it sounded like all of a sudden somebody started moving a huge piece of furniture across the hardwood floor above them. And they just sat there and they listened, and then the sound, it was like somebody came flying down the stairs behind them and then through into the dining room and then into the kitchen. They heard, it was just this steady noise. And, they went and looked and there was nothing there. And it takes a tremendous amount of energy for a ghost to do something like that, but it happens there all the time.
Now, you have many EVPs. Are these included in the ebook?
Yes. There, and they're in the print book as well, the links, so it would be a little bit more difficult. People would have to type that in, but I do have a deal on Amazon that if people buy the print book, the paperback, they can also get the ebook for like $1 or something like that, so they can get both and be able to get to the EVPs.
Very nice.
Joni, could you give us, I know we can't listen to the EVPs on the show right now, but could you give us an example of some of the EVPs that you've gotten?
Oh, I have hundreds of them on my computer, and it was hard for me to even decide which ones to provide. Between Ghostbox and just actual EVPs. One of my favorites was after a Halloween event. We were there, me, Tina, and Marion, and we're moving the dining room table from the ladies' parlor back into the dining room. And I was on the back end or the front end of the table, and I was walking backwards, and I almost bumped into the door frame. And I had my recorder there, which is just my standard practice. I just let it run, and I just sit it on the table in case I catch something, just to see what the mood of the house is. And I caught an EVP that said, "Be careful, pay attention." And it was not one of us. You could hear us, talking, and you hear that. So somebody was scolding me for almost bumping into the doorway. But we've gotten some really threatening ones. We've gotten "Get out, go away." I asked one time if there was anything in the basement that we needed to be worried about, and it came across the ghost box. It said the devil. So it was, and they say names. I've gotten my name. I probably had 3 or 4 EVPs between regular EVPs and ghost box where I've said, do you remember who I am? And one of them said 2 voices. One said Joni, and then a female voice said Joni. So they're very intelligent. They interact and they just talk to us.
I love it. Go ahead, Jeremy.
So, were very many of the entities threatening? Did they cause harm, or did they just move stuff around the house and say, "Hey, you know what? I'm here"?
Yeah, there's a couple there that aren't happy with people coming in, and there have been people that have been scratched, pushed. Just the threatening feeling that they're there. The one in the basement is he's very dark, and he does not like people coming into his domain. And the way he gets you out is he uses intimidation. And being a sensitive, I feel it twice more than a non-sensitive, because you can feel him right behind you, breathing down your neck. But even if you're not as sensitive, he'll envelop you in blackness to the point where you can't see out of it. You can't see any lights or anything, and you just get that feeling that, I need to get out of here. And people usually do. But towards the end, the haunting it would just throw them off balance, like they'd be sleeping and somebody pounded on their bedroom door 3 times, always 3, which is a little indicative of something not so great, that everything happened in 3s in the house. But, they get up and there's nobody there. And towards the end, my friend Derek is going to call in and tell a story that happened and he was part of, but Lillian was actually overtaken twice in the house. And once is the title, the book Bones in the Basement. She went down in the basement and started digging for bones. And then the next time, which was probably a year later, she was overtaken for 3 days and then pinned to the bed. And that was kind of the final straw. If they're strong enough to overtake people, then, it's what's to stop them from, throwing you out a window or, grabbing a butcher knife or, so it got scary to them.
I have a follow-up question. He just asked, were any of the entities threatening? I want to know, while you were there, did you ever feel threatened?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. The man in the basement, for whatever reason, every time they'd have a tour, I would end up being the basement tour guide, and I would stay down there for 6 or 7 hours on end and do tour after tour, and I could feel him get upset. But, I would talk to him. I'd say, look, I'm sorry. We're doing this as a fundraiser, and I'm stuck down here, and I know you're not happy, but, can you just kind of, back away into the corner, and we'll be done soon. And he would usually be okay with that. But I've never been pushed or hurt or anything, and a lot of it was because I'm very respectful of the ghosts there. If we're in a room and we're investigating and we get out, we leave. We leave that room. We respect their wishes, and there's a couple of them just we know to steer clear of. I've never been harmed or anything. Nothing bad's ever happened, but I have definitely felt, especially being sensitive, I felt the vibes that they don't want to put anything out.
Oh, okay. Who's blending something? Was that you, Jeremy?
Joni, we have a question from Kathy. Kathy, one of our wonderful friends in the chat room. Kathy wants to know if you had any psychics come through the house, and if so, did they connect with anything?
Oh, yeah, definitely. There's been a lot of psychics. I have one that's going to call in. I can tell her to call in shortly if you're ready for callers.
Yeah, you can tell her to call in.
Heather Anderson will be the one that's calling in. There were a lot of psychics coming through, and as I was interviewing people for the book, half the book, it started off just being Edwin and Lillian's story, and then it started transferring into everybody's story because so many people had experiences there. And all the psychics, who was interesting, would pick up on a lot of the same things. And Edwin does a tour, and he takes people around, the owner, and tells them the basic haunting in the house. But these psychics were picking out similar things that nobody else, nobody told them or anything. Some of the stories were the woman in the red room, apparently, supposedly a prostitute had been murdered there. But as we're researching the deaths in the house, there was no woman that, prostitute or otherwise, that died as a resident of the house. We couldn't really, document that. But the psychics are coming up with the same descriptions. I mean, they all describe her as being dark brown hair, and she would wear it up, and some thought she was more from like the 1960s because the house was abandoned for 20 years. And some saw her as more of the Victorian area, but they all described her almost right down to the T. And the little boy, they would connect with him just everybody felt like something really bad happened to him. And again, we couldn't document his death either, but the psychics are picking up what he looks like and where he stays and the things he says, and it all corresponds with the EVPs we get. So the psychics have been the most fascinating for me. I would love to have Chris go into the house. I'd love to hear what you had to say about it.
Hey, Chris.
I'd love to.
What are you doing tomorrow?
Where exactly is it again?
It's in Gardner, Massachusetts.
Victor, what is that, like a 4 or 5 hour drive for us?
Chris, if I pick you up tomorrow morning about 8 o'clock, we could be there by by noon.
Well, let's do it. I'm not doing anything tomorrow.
I'm not doing anything tomorrow either. Let's do it, Chris.
I'm in, buddy.
Okay.
Oh, God.
Joni, after the show, we'll make arrangements as to where to meet you.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, Heather said she just called in. She's one of the psychics that went through there. I don't know if you're ready to take callers or not, but she said she's on the line.
Bring her on, Jenny.
Please. Caller, are you with us?
Hello?
Hello,
Hi,
how
Heather.
are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm wonderful. Victor, why don't you take over, my friend?
Heather, so tell us about what you experienced when you toured the house. What did you pick up on? Who did you pick up on?
Hi, Victor.
Hi.
Well, I don't even know where to begin. The house is extremely active, very intense. When I walked in, I got a lot of different types of energies, kind of all rushed into me. Some were good, and some were very, how should I put it, angry, very, they were not able to, they're very unrestful spirits that were in the house. So basically, you have all different types of spirits roaming in the house, so there was many different energies.
Which did you find as the most? Which did you find as the most difficult spirit?
I believe the female that I encountered, and there was a couple of males that I felt that were very angry and just they had this energy that was very extremely strong, and they definitely didn't like people in the house.
And what about the little boy?
The little boy seemed very lost, sad. There was a lot of sadness with him. But I do feel like he was with another female that was kind of protecting him a little bit. I don't know his name. There was one name that kept coming to me. His name was David. But I don't know if that was the little boy that I also felt. The most threatening that I felt was one of the females. She seemed to be the one that, you definitely need to be very cautious with.
Is she the one that took you over, Heather?
Yes, that's the one that I channeled with. And She's
I'd love to hear that story.
filled
That
with
is so
rage.
chilling.
Yeah, she is extremely filled with rage. And the thing that is most interesting with the spirits is they're all from different time frames. So they connect. They're all in the same house, but they're not always connecting with each other. Do you know that makes sense?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What time frames can you give us an idea of what time frames they're from?
I'm sorry, can you please repeat that?
Can you give us an idea of what time frames that they're from?
They are as early as, I would say, maybe late 1800s to early 1900s, all the way up to I would say like maybe 1940s to even in the 70s. There were.
So you had a lot of different eras going on in there.
You do. You have a lot of different decades of people with that house. There's.
I have a very interesting question. Now, you're in that house. You're picking up spirit from many different eras. Did you get the feeling that they knew each other were there, or were the spirit from all the different eras kind of like separate from each other? Because I've encountered I asked this question because I've encountered at the Shanley Hotel where I saw spirit from different dimensions, and they had different time frames, and they had no idea each other were there, and that blew me away. And I'm curious to know if you had the same impression when you were in this house.
Yes, that's exactly what I was just trying to. The many different spirits from the different time frames, they're there, but they don't all know that each one of the other spirits are there. You know, the only two I feel that are really connected are the little boy and the adult female. That's kind of, they're from the same, I believe they're from the same time frame, and maybe they were in the house at the, together. Maybe she was a caretaker of his, or something of that, nature. But I do feel that there's certain spirits that are there in different time frames, but they don't know that they're there.
That's interesting.
They're each doing their own thing.
I have a question for you, Victor, because I don't know how to answer this question. Why is it that I can go into a home and see different spirits that don't see each other? I could see them, but they can't see each other. Why do you think that is?
There's a lot of theories about that, Chris. But the biggest
I think they're on different vibrations.
Yeah, different vibrations and different dimensions.
Exactly. Depending on the person, like that woman, she's in a whole different ball game than the other spirits in the house. Her vibration is very high, very strong, but she's filled with anger and rage, and she just definitely has a lot of hate, in the way she sees things, or the way she's going after other people, or feeding off their energies. And then you have
not having been there, but I'm just from your description, I'm picking something up. I'm sensing the possibility that she was either the nanny or perhaps a female relative of the little boy, and she feels that the little boy is being threatened by the presence of people in the house, and that's why she's taking the stance that she's taking.
It's very possible. It's very possible. The woman that I encountered, I don't know if she was a nanny. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's two different females. One was the nanny to the son, and then the other woman that I encountered through the channeling, I don't feel like she really had a connection with the boy.
Okay.
So you had somebody in there channeling?
Yeah, I allowed her to kind of come through me to give her story, like why she was there, what her, if she had any messages or anything, and she was just enraged over this male.
Well, let me ask you a question. This really interests me. When you were channeling, were you trans-channeling or just pretty much giving the message that was coming through you, as yourself? How did that work out? Were you trans-channeling or not?
To be honest, that was my first time channeling with that woman. So I didn't really know what I did. All I know is that I opened myself up, and I asked her to please come to me, and I would be more than willing to receive her message and to relay it. And I wanted to kind of give an understanding of why she's here and what she wants. And when I opened myself up and the more I allowed her to come closer into me, I know that sounds really strange, but...
no, it doesn't.
I allowed her to come, and then the more I allowed her to come in, the less control I had of myself. And it seemed like an eternity, but it was only a few minutes that it actually kind of transpired, into the rage. If that makes sense. Now, the little boy, the nanny, she's, like you said, very protective of the little boy. So all these people coming into the house, her protective energy comes through, and it kind of gives off this where she doesn't want anyone there.
Very interesting. Unreal. All right. Do we have any more questions for our guest?
Well, I want Heather to talk about what happened when she channeled this woman, because she only kind of got into the story, because this is kind of the scary part. Keep going.
Okay. So, kind of let me just start, I guess, from the beginning when the investigators came in. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, well, you had started channeling the woman, and there were other people there with you, and then what happened? Okay, so like I said, the woman was very angry, partly because of all the people being there, and also because, I was agitating her in a sense of, what's going on? Tell me what's the matter? Who are you angry with? Why are you angry? And this one investigator was kind of talking to her through me as well, and relentless. He was very relentless on asking her questions, and I could feel the agitation just rising as she was kind of mixing her energy with mine, I guess. And she was screaming back, you get out, you need to leave. The male that she was speaking of, I felt like he had hurt someone in the house, and she was kind of going after him to get him out of the house. It was almost like she was bringing me back to an incident that had happened back in her time when she was alive. And like I said, he was kind of in her face, or my face rather, and she was it was starting to get a little physical, I could see myself pushing this man, but I wasn't pushing him. And all of a sudden, this rage came, and she was screaming at the top of her lungs, telling him to get out, or she was going to, remove him. And then all of a sudden, the power that came through me to push him. He went flying down the hall and literally got caught by another gentleman. And if he hadn't caught him, he would have gone right through the window. And we were on the third floor, I think it was the third floor. The third floor.
It was the third floor. And after that, she left me immediately. and my body was shaking violently. Actually, I felt like I had no control whatsoever. Like I said, I had never experienced anything like that because I had never allowed a spirit to get that close to me to be, kind of like with me like that.
Did you guys get this documented on film?
I don't think they did. I don't think they did. If they did, I don't have any of the tapes. I don't have any of the voice recorders or anything. It's unfortunate because it was quite the scene. And
I would have loved to have seen that. My group was part of something like that where we had gotten thrown, 3 of us, and all at the same time, and we actually got it on film. It's one of my prized possessions, and I would have loved to have seen that. I wish somebody would have caught that. But hey, you can't get them all,
Exactly, and unfortunately, it was something. It was a learning experience for me as well. It taught me to be a little bit more cautious when approaching spirits that are restless or definitely within, have anger issues, I should say. And she definitely has major. She's not going anywhere. She's not going to leave that house.
I'm sure of that.
And she's going to make it completely inhabitable.
Okay. Vic, you got
inhabitable. Anything? I'm sorry. Did I say inhabitable? Inhabitable.
Yeah, but we know what you meant.
It's late. I've been up since yesterday. I'm sorry.
Heather, let's not let our inhibitions stop us from getting to the truth here. So it's okay. It's okay. So, Joni, question for you. Did the owners reach out for help other than paranormal investigators? And if so, what happened?
Yeah, there are a lot of teams that came through. So, I think Heather's story is interesting, though, because her channeling that female probably led to that female understanding that she could get into people, and that's when, shortly after that, Lillian was overtaken for the first time. So it was kind of, the story it was like a learning lesson for her as well. She was like, oh, cool, I can get into people and make them see or do what I want them to do. And so she turned her sights on Lillian shortly after that.
Well, I have a follow-up before you answer your question, Jeremy. After this happened, how did you react to this? I mean, that being your first time channeling and something like that happening, how did you react to that? Because I know with me it's a little bit different because, I mean, I do exorcism, and so I'm used to that. But for somebody who, for your first time doing something like that, that had to be very unnerving, first of all. I want to know how you felt after that happened.
Scared to death, I'll tell you. I had to leave the house because I was shaking so violently. My teeth were chattering uncontrollably. I thought I was going to chip a tooth. And my husband took me right out, and I was just like, I did not want to go back in the house. I was scared because I literally had no control. It was something that, like you said, I've never experienced anything like that where I was there. And the fact that I almost killed a man really put me through, like, oh, my God, this guy could have gone through the window, like, something seriously. She's out for, it kind of put the realization of this woman is not playing around. She really wants to hurt people. She,
right.
And she is extremely tenacious.
Jeremy, before you ask the guest question in the chat room, I just want to share a little something with everybody. I did an exorcism a few months back with Victor, and I don't know how many months, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, and it was something that I had never experienced before, and it was one of the few times that I got shooken up a bit. And you want to know what this guy did? I'm talking about Victor. I went outside to get a little breath of air because I needed a little bit of air. And he comes out and says, "You pussy, get back in there and demon's ass." And I was like, "Well, I mean, did you just see what I went through, Victor?" And he goes, "I don't want to hear it. You're supposed to be some kind of, exorcism dude. Get in there and kick some spirit ass." And Victor, I haven't been able to get that out of my mind ever since.
Chris, I got to tell you something. I must have been possessed. I don't remember ever saying that.
Okay, maybe I'm fibbing a little bit, but the point I'm making is, I was just joking around, but the point I'm making is, it's okay to get scared, especially doing something like that, and I very rarely get scared, but the time I'm talking about was at Tony Ann's house, and I never experienced that what happened that night, and it actually it took me for a loop for a few minutes because I've done this for a long time. I've done a lot of exorcisms, and that just it surprised me, and it took my friends coming out there and saying, "Okay, Chris, you got this," to just kind of like focus me, get me back on track, to go back in there and do it. And I think it's just important to make sure you have, people you trust around you anytime you do something like that. And just keep that in your mind at all times. Anytime you think there's a negative or a violent spirit, if you've channeled once, you're apt to doing it again. And you should, have good people around you to protect you. And Jeremy, that leads into the question for our guest from the chat room. Why don't you take it?
Yeah, how do you protect yourself from spirits when you're dealing with things like that?
Is this a question for me?
Let Joni take that one.
How to protect yourself when you come in?
Yeah, Joni, generally speaking, with the paranormal investigations, how do you protect yourself during an investigation?
Well, everybody has a practice that works for them. A lot of people will say a prayer, or they'll carry medals, religious icon medals, or stones. Everybody has something different. Personally, I use my guides. I use a little bit of everything. I always have stones and a crucifix, and we burn sage before and after. But mostly, I use my guides to help protect me.
I agree. Yeah, definitely.
One thing I got to say about Victor, we've been working together. What's it been, like 3 years now, Vic?
Yep.
More or less.
Yes, sir.
One thing about Vic is he's very good at doing a protection, and he does, whatever he does, he's very good at it. We form a circle, we hold hands, and he does his little thing. But what I love most about what Victor does is after we're done with an exorcism, Victor he puts like an end to the night where he does I don't know if you want to call it a closing of the circle ceremony. I don't know exactly what you want to call it, Victor, but I think that's very important when you're doing stuff like this is kind of like putting an end to the evening. Victor, why don't you just quickly tell people what you do when we're done with a hostile haunting?
Well, first of all, I come from a formal training as an interfaith minister from the New Seminary of New York, and that's one of the skills and one of the experiences that I'm grateful for, having that training. And so what I do is I use a combination of spirit and a combination of general energy and bring a closure to the energy of the evening and a seal to the place that we're at so that any negativity that's been dispelled doesn't have an opportunity to come back in.
Yeah, and I love it because that's not my specialty, and you being part of our group, that really, I feel like that just kind of like ends the night, and it puts me in a good place, and I feel a little bit more energized and more protected at the end of the night, or cleansed, and I just think I'm very grateful to have you there, especially at the end of the night for that. So I just want to throw that out there.
Thank you.
I just want to.
I just want to clarify what Chris was talking about before. Something happened that night that neither he nor I think Kathy or any other member of the team, the Second Sight team, had ever experienced before. Chris came down the stairs because he had been wrestling with this intense negative entity, and he had to go outside. And before going outside, we all saw what appeared to be energy earthworms crawling all over the floor. I've never seen anything like this before or since. And it was literally like giant black energy earthworms crawling throughout the floor. And I don't scare. I don't scare at all. That disturbed me when I saw that, because that was something that was beyond my realm of experience. And we did clear it energetically. But that, I must say, was probably the most intense evening we've ever spent, Chris.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing.
May I jump in for a second?
Absolutely.
We, too, also saw things that would just manifest out of thin air as well. Ours was actually fecal matter.
Wow.
Yeah. It was throughout the entire house when we first went there. And Edwin was mortified, because we're thinking, okay, the dogs are just going to the bathroom wherever, but that wasn't the case at all. The dogs had been with Lillian the whole time, and in that little pantry of the area where the kitchen is, they had them kind of blocked off, so it was not their dogs. And I would go back, to double, and they would be gone, but they would just be manifesting.
Now, was there any odor associated with it, or just the the visual rather?
Just the visual. There were other types of odors that were coming through, but they didn't smell like the fecal matter. They smelled like rotting flesh almost, and that was kind of like in the cellar a little bit. And then there was this really, when I was upstairs, there was this burning smell I would get, and then there was, in this other room, oil paintings, or like a painter
right
was there. It was kind of like kerosene almost.
Well, Chris, we have a new phenomenon tonight that they brought to us: parapoop.
Parapoop, yes.
We have paraporn, we have orgasms, and now we have parapoop. I mean,
parapoop. That's it.
Nice. I like that. Tony, you had somebody else who wanted to call in?
There should be somebody on the line right now. It would be Derek Cormier. He kind of leads into the story about when Lillian was overtaken, the last time when they actually had to flee the house. So he was there for that. He saw that.
Caller, are you with us?
Hello?
Hello, caller, are you with us?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Could you say your name again, please?
Yes, Derek Cormier.
How you doing, Derek? Do you want to follow up on that question or on her story?
Yeah, a friend of mine and I, my friend Bob, were hanging out down in the kitchen with Edwin and Lillian, as we did quite a few times till late hours of the night. And they heard some noises coming from upstairs, and they said, hey, can you guys go check that out for us, please? So, we went upstairs, and we're kind of standing there very quiet, just listening on the second floor. And we both saw this little tapestry curtain they had down one of their hallways move, as if someone had grabbed it and kind of pushed it out of the way to peek around the corner. And when that happened, we heard some noises upstairs, and went to the bottom of the stairs for the third floor, and my friend Bob just started looking pale, and he started looking weak, and he needed to go sit down. So we went to the chair in the landing of the second floor, and he was sitting there for a few minutes. And when he felt fine, we went downstairs to the kitchen, and we talked to Edwin and Lillian about it. And then Edwin wanted to come up with us, so the three of us went back up there. And same thing, Bob started feeling very weak and very, very pale and sickly again. So we went back downstairs, and at the bottom of the stairs, Bob had to just sit. And Lillian came over and wanted to see what was going on, wanted to see if he was okay. And she put her hand on his shoulder, and as soon as she did that, he instantly felt better. And the next 3 days were the days that she felt like she was attacked or possessed or whatever. She had some really bad dreams, and that happened to be the start of what pushed them to kind of want to leave the house, because she felt like she was being threatened. Something was attacking her at that point.
So did the groups help or do more harm? They came into the house.
I think.
Go ahead.
I can probably
Joni?
answer that one.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I think it probably did more harm. They obviously learned more about the hauntings, but not all the groups were good about respecting the fact that somebody lived in that house. There was a lot of provoking. They'd get them all mad, and then leave them for Edwin and Lillian to deal with. And a lot of times the activity would trump up after the groups would leave. Some of the groups are great. Don't get me wrong. Some are very respectful, but some of them were opening circles and doing things. They found a homemade Ouija board in the house at one point where people that didn't know what they were doing opened up something new. There were just a lot of issues with it, so I think more harm.
I agree.
Our guest tonight is the wonderful Joni Mayhan and her friends and colleagues talking about Joni's new book, Bones in the Basement, Surviving the S.K. Pierce Haunted Mansion. And Joni, again, please tell our listeners where they can get a copy of your book and find out more about you and your work.
Oh, absolutely. They can find my books on Amazon.com or BarnesandNobles.com. It's in both ebook and paperback form. They can find me on my website, JoniMayhan.com, and that's JoniMayhan.com. And they can message me there if they're interested in a signed paperback. Or you can find me on Facebook. I take any friend requests.
All right, beautiful. Well, any one of you can answer this. I don't care who answers. I want to know, who do they think is the dark energy in the basement?
I'll jump in because I have a pretty good idea. We've got a couple of different people, but I think it's Edward, who was the youngest son. And the story of Edward kind of leads into another haunting that another caller is going to call in and talk about. But Edward Pierce was the youngest son, and he ended up with a house. And he had the house through the Depression. His 2-year-old daughter died in the house, and then his wife died. And then he ended up with a house, and the house was in really bad shape. And it was a boarding house at that point. There were all kinds of terrible things that happened while it was a boarding house. And he ended up losing the house, and there's some controversy about it. A lot of people say he lost the house in a poker game or a card game. And other people say, no, that didn't happen. We couldn't verify that. I did see the bill of sale, and it did say zero. It didn't say any amount of money. My guess is that he probably was friends with a wealthy man, and that man probably offered to take the house and do the repairs but let Edward stay there. And Edward ended up sleeping in the basement because it was close to the old heater. And he was a very bitter person by that time. He was beaten down. I mean, he was a Pierce, and here he was living in the basement of the house that his father built. So we've gotten his name quite a few times. Other teams have also gotten the name Frank, which is his oldest brother, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me because Frank moved on and built a house 2 houses down and, lived happily ever after, to my knowledge. But I think it's Edward.
Okay, do you guys agree with her?
I definitely agree that there's a male presence. It very well could be Edward.
All right. Vic, you want to take the next one?
Sure. So we have this little boy in the basement, and all of you can answer this. Who is the little boy?
Well, I'll jump in real quick. The little boy has never been documented. We cannot find him. Various psychic mediums have come up with conclusions. Some feel he was a servant's child who accidentally got killed in the house. Others feel that he was maybe a runaway. Heather, what did you pick up about him?
I I definitely felt like he was very close to the servants. Like he was cared by the servants mostly. So I felt more of a connection with that, idea of him being maybe a servant's child and kind of being raised there, and then somehow, he met his demise in the house, because I feel like at that time the house was already spiritually active. The house was already haunted when this little boy was being raised there.
Would you like to put your web or Facebook information out?
I'm sorry?
Would you like to give out any information on you, like your website or your Facebook info?
Oh, sure. That'd be great. Thank you. I go by The Mystical Medium. My website's www.themysticalmedium.com. And you can find me on Facebook, Heather Anderson.
Heather, and you and the other gentleman, you guys can friend us all on Facebook. That would be great. We love connecting with like-minded. So, and you can find us all through Joni.
And Derek, would you like to give your information also?
I think Derek had to hang up. His phone died, but Derek is on Facebook as well.
I would like.
I can give his. It's D.W. Cormier, Cormier. So he's on Facebook as well.
Great.
Okay, beautiful. Jeremy, why don't you take Kathy's question?
Is there any activity around the outside of the home, and are there any cemeteries located near the home?
The outside of the home does have energy, but it's very connected to the house. I think it goes to the whole perimeter, pretty much. You can kind of feel it as you're driving up. Joni, can you concur that?
Oh, yeah. There have been many times I've met people there, and I've sat in my car, and being a sensitive, I can hear them popping in like, oh, hey, she's here early, So, but they don't. Yeah. I have had them follow me home from there as well, and I've actually had some other people, when I was interviewing them, had the same circumstance. So the one that followed me one time was Eno Sari, and that's the man that died in the 1960s that burnt to death. People say it was self-combustion, but I think it was probably more drinking hard liquor and smoking in bed. But he's another very negative one, and we've got somebody else who's going to call in to talk about him. But yes, there is a cemetery down the street, not too far.
I like to say, for that reason alone is why you should have somebody like Victor, who does a closing ceremony or whatever you want to call it at the end of an investigation, or when you leave a place like that, to ensure that nothing follows you home, to ensure that there's no attachment or anything like that. I think it's very, very important.
And Chris, that also shows the importance. That also shows the importance of. Hang on. That also shows the importance of not drinking Gentleman Jack and then smoking a cigar in bed. Okay, Chris, I want you to hear that message loud and clear.
I got the message.
Right.
Well, and Stephen in the chat room, our show didn't air last night because there was technical difficulties, but we taped it, and in a few weeks you'll hear last night's show. So just throwing that out there to people about last night's show.
Chris also covers how to protect yourself in the psychic development classes that he does every month. So I'm just saying, people, $30 for 2 hours of education is not bad.
Yeah, we're going to get back into the psychic development classes. I'm thinking about a month or so. You know what happens in the summertime? People are just too busy to think about psychic development, and it's something I love doing, and we'll be getting back into that. And Victor and I are also thinking about doing some larger events together. So we'll be talking about that in the upcoming weeks once Victor and I pan some things out and whatever. Also, we're thinking about doing a live streaming show. Danny, I hope you're listening. Maybe you could help us out with that. Just another little thing to throw out there. Now Joni, you said you had one more person who wanted to call in?
Chris, hang on one second. Denny, he's talking about streaming video. I don't know if the world is ready for you and I streaming video, Chris. Maybe, maybe not. Let's see.
Well, You know what? I think that they're ready. I mean, you know, you're a really good-looking guy. Me, I am what I am, and Jeremy,
Chris,
he's a wackadoo like us. I think it could be a lot of fun.
Chris, the only problem is we'll have to be dressed when we do these shows. That's
absolutely not. I will be doing the show naked.
Okay.
I will be doing the show naked. Jeremy, you keep your clothes on, okay?
Is this going to be a video? Is this a video?
Absolutely.
You guys didn't know
video streaming?
Yeah, video streaming.
I'm naked right now, but that's a whole other story. Now, I want to know who's the other
It's a whole different show.
Johnny, who else is calling in?
Lucky Belcamino is calling in, and she's going to talk a little bit about Eno Sari, the man who died in 1963 from the fire, and she had some experiences with him when she was there investigating.
All right, Victor, why don't you bring him on?
Hi, I'm sorry, what was her name?
Oh, her.
Lucky.
Rocky?
Lucky.
Oh, Lucky, I'm sorry, it's very hard for me to hear. Lucky, welcome to the show. Are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Hi, Lucky, how are you?
Good evening and happy supermoon to everybody.
Absolutely.
Oh, yes, happy moon to you.
Thank you.
So,
I
Lucky,
only have a
tell
few
us
minutes.
about your... Lucky, please tell us about your experience of channeling this man who passed away in the 60s.
Well, I really wasn't channeling him. Rather than we captured a very captivating, riveting EVP. My second time in the Victorian Mansion, I brought a few, about 6 women were in my group when we were in the master bedroom, and I had brought some trigger items with us that night. A little nip of whiskey and a cigarette. And upon entering the room, I started talking to Eno, trying to get his attention, and told him that I had brought him some gifts, the whiskey and the cigarette, and blah, 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 and went to look in my bag, and unbeknownst to me, I had left him in the car. So I said, Eno, I'm going to run out to the car and grab you some goodies, and I came back, and I'm like, well, you know what? I don't know where they are. Somebody either took them or I just forgot to bring them and something like that, and one of the women in my group said, that's okay. We can bring Eno across the street to the bar later. And we went on our merry way, and we went through the house and did some more investigations. And then upon hearing our EVPs a couple days after, what we heard after the woman who was speaking live saying that we can take Eno to the bar across the street. And now, mind you, there were no men in the room whatsoever. And we had heard very clearly in a very harsh, distinctive male voice saying, I've already had my whiskey, bitch. So he was actually answering the woman who said we can take him to the bar across the street. And Joni was so kind to include that in the book because it was just something riveting. It was just so profound. It was absolutely fabulous that we captured that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was absolutely amazing. I mean, we listened to it, we broke it down, we used all kinds of technology, and it was absolutely just something very fascinating.
Do you know what really just gets me every time? The intelligence.
Right.
That they have and that how they can speak to us. You know, it kind of throws me a little bit when they communicate. Because they're very, they just talk like as if they were standing right there.
Right.
Yeah. There's no filter.
Yeah, this came immediately after she had said that. There was no lapse. It was just like he hadn't missed a beat at all. It was just so fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I can confirm, too, that we've gotten that same voice on other multiple EVPs.
Right.
So there's very distinctive voices in the house, and we've caught his voice over and over again. So it's clear in my mind we're talking to Eno Sari.
Well, Lucky, thank you so much for sharing that. Lucky, do you want to give your contact information or Facebook information out?
Yes, and thank you. I appreciate it. Anybody can reach my Facebook page, Lucky Belcamino, BELCAMINO. I am the founder of New England Paranormal Society and New England Wicked Scary, and you can find us on Facebook as well.
Well, thank you.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you, Lucky.
Lucky.
You're welcome. Good night, you guys.
Good night.
Good night. Well, Tony, you had some great people calling in, and we appreciate that. It always adds to the show, and it's much appreciated. Excellent people you had call in.
Thank you.
Right. Do you have anyone else? Is there anyone else that you'd like to have?
That's all that I know of. That's all I had.
All right. Well, who wants to take the next question?
Well, actually, I have a question. Heather had mentioned this manifestation of ghost or energy fecal matter, and then it would disappear. Was there anything of a nature of either smelling or finding urine also? I'm just curious about that.
No, I didn't smell or see any urine.
Okay, so during these
just the fecal matter.
So during this investigations, you never found a wicked pissa, is what I'm alluding here to.
No, it wasn't wicked pissa.
I just had to throw a Massachusetts joke.
Throw that out there, right?
Yeah, my friend Joe Kramer's up there, who's wicked everything. Everything he does is wicked, and I just wanted to throw that out there. Thank you.
So, Joni, you've investigated at this mansion, right? And if you have, what have you experienced personally?
I've been there hundreds of times. I mean, I'm there all the time. I've experienced a lot of times you'll see things move out of the corner of your eye. I've never actually. The only time I saw anything clear was my sister from Indiana came to visit with her 3 children and a friend, and so I took them on a tour of the house. And my youngest niece Lily was very enchanted with the idea of a little boy ghost, and so she sat on the grand staircase, and she had her arm out. She's like, "You can come sit with me and talk to me." And I was going to take her picture doing that because I thought it was cute, and I saw this white shape. I don't want to call it an orb because I really don't get into orbs, but it was about the size of bigger than a baseball but smaller than a basketball, and it went moving past her, and I managed to capture that picture
wow.
of her with that right in front of her. But I saw it with my eyes right before I clicked the picture, so I caught it on film as well. So I've seen, I've heard a lot of noises. I mean, you're there and you'll hear a door shut, or you'll hear footsteps upstairs, or footsteps on the grand staircase. We hear voices a lot, and we always stop and listen because you can hear it's close to the street, so you can hear street noise. But it's like, was that outside or was that inside? And there's so many times you're not completely sure where that was. But as for any kind of negative experience, no, because I usually don't push my luck. If I feel that they want me out of there, then that's when I leave.
Our guest is Joni Mahan. Her book is Bones in the Basement, Surviving the S.K. Pierce Haunted Mansion, which leads to the million-dollar question, why the title Bones in the Basement?
Oh, yeah. Well, it was kind of a symbolic title, and I could have just called it the Haunted Victorian Mansion, but I kind of wanted to allude to the fact that there's a lot of secrets in that house, and there's a lot of bones buried that are hoping to be found. And one of the most famous stories that Edwin tells or that they experienced in the house was the first time Lillian was overtaken, and this was shortly after Heather came in and had the experience of channeling that negative entity. Lillian woke up one morning, and she was had her habits set in stone. The house wasn't heated, so they would get up and they would turn on the heater in the bathroom, and it took her a while to get ready. But this morning, Edwin woke up, and she was getting ready, and she got ready with no heat and got dressed like she was going out somewhere. And he got up a little bit later, and he went in. He worked from home, and he went to work. He thought maybe she'd gone out to run errands, and then he happened to look out the window and see her car out in the parking lot and the driveway, and he thought, "What? I wonder why she's still here." And he went to look for her and didn't find her anywhere in the house, and he thought, well, the only place he had checked was the basement. So he went down, and he's going down the stairs. He's hearing digging. And he gets down to the base of the stairs, and he finds her in the Summers kitchen. Back in the 1800s, they had one room set up in the basement that they used for cooking in the summer, so they would heat up the entire house. And there was a kiln on the floor, and the kiln kind of looks like a small chimney, and they would burn refuse in it and use it for cooking and whatnot. But when they bought the house, it was full of ashes. And she was down there going to town, digging, soot flying. She was black from head to toe with soot on her, good clothes, which was something she never did. And he said, "Hon, what are you doing?" And she said, "I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing." And she acted really strange. And he said, "Well, why don't you come on up?" And then she snapped at him, like full of rage. And he backed off. He thought, "Okay, I'm going to leave her alone. She's obviously in a bad mood." And it was so abnormal for her because she's not that kind of person. You meet her, she's happy-go-lucky and just sweet. And so he goes back upstairs and he's working, and a little later she comes up and she has bones in her hands, and she said, "Honey, look what I found." She was all happy. She said, "I found pelvic bones in the kiln. See, they wanted me to find these." And he looked at him and he said, "Well, yeah, they're bones. How do you know they're pelvic bones?" And she said, "Well, I just know." And they took some pictures of them, and he had a doctor's appointment the next day, and so he took the bones in and showed them to his doctor, and the doctor said, "Well, yeah, they look like a child's pelvic bone, but I'm not a specialist. Let me send them off to my friend who's an orthopedic surgeon." And he didn't send the bones off, but he took the pictures. And his friend came back and said, "Yeah, it's hard to say from the pictures, but they do definitely look like human pelvic bones." And so they eventually called the police and had them come down, and they looked around, and they put the bones in, and they sent them out for analysis. And it was probably a month or so later that they still hadn't heard back from them, and they called down to the police station, and they said, "Oh, no, they weren't human. Don't worry about it." And it was like the end of it. It was kind of disappointing on a lot of levels because they thought that was going to be the reason behind at least one of the hauntings, and it didn't prove to be that way, at least not as far as what the police told them. But I think, if anything, it was symbolic that I don't know if the woman overtook her or if somebody else in the house did, trying to get her down there to try to uncover some of the secrets. We feel things happen in that basement that the story still hasn't been told. So that's why I called it Bones in the Basement.
Mm.
Interesting.
Jeremy?
Go ahead, Jeremy.
Jeremy.
Yes, I'm here, Victor.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
What have some of the other teams experienced in the house?
They've experienced a lot of different things. One of my last interviews was with a guy named Peter from a group that investigates out of Gloucester, and that team had a lot of experience in the house. But Peter himself, he was coming out of one of the bedrooms, and an apparition just appeared right in his face, and it was so scary. He said it had like almost a skeletal face, and it was huge. It was like 8 feet tall, and it kept rising, and it had a long cape on, and it kept rising towards the ceiling, and then it finally disappeared. And he jumped when he saw it so much that there was a candelabra behind him, and I guess Edwin had lit it, so the candles were lit at that point, and he knocked wax all over the wall, which, I think any of us who would have had that happen probably would have jumped too. But that was one of the things, and I thought that was pretty cool. Other people have had.
What happened to finally drive them out of the house?
The second time Derek was talking about, when Lillian was overtaken for 3 full days, she after the experience that they had there and something transferred from the other guy, Bob, to her, she went and laid down on the couch, and she didn't get out for 3 days. She didn't get up to go to the bathroom. She didn't get up to eat. She didn't get up to do anything. She just laid there. She was almost like she was in a coma. And Edwin, the spirits in the house were keeping him away from her as well. Neither of them really remember those 3 days. It was like being in a dream. And interesting to me is, while she was in this dream, some of the dreams and visions that she was having were similar to what Heather experienced with the pushing out the window. One of the things that happened was she saw herself looking out the front third-story window down at the sidewalk, and there's a big V on the sidewalk that the Vodes put on there when they lived there, and she saw that rushing up at her like she was falling out the window. And so it was like somebody was trying to show her something or explain something to her. But shortly after she came out of that, she went up to go to bed, and something pinned her to the bed, and she couldn't get up. And Edwin, she called, screamed for Edwin, and he came running up, and he couldn't get her off the bed either. Finally, he had to shove her. It was something had a tight grip on her. And it just became clear right at that point that they just couldn't take it anymore, that it was just too much. If they could, take them both over for 3 days, what would stop them from actually, throwing them out the window or, even worse.
Mm-hmm. All right, Vic, why don't you close this out?
Well, Joni, why don't you share where do they live now? Do they still have ownership of the house? And what are their plans for it?
Yeah, they still own the house. They're still paying the mortgage and all the bills on it. That they live in her sister's basement. That's the only place that they could go. They couldn't afford to own this house and pay rent in another place. So they're basically paying the living expenses in 2 different locations. The house is no longer open for investigations. It just sits there empty, and some of us go check it from time to time. I don't know what the plans are. I think they're going to make a decision sometime this summer as to what they're going to do, whether they're going to try to move back in or sell it or what. But right now it's still up in the air.
Well, when Chris and I come up there tomorrow.
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
I'd like to know, do you have an idea what you think that they would sell it for? A price?
I don't know. Maybe I did message Edwin while somebody else was talking to ask him if it was okay for you to come through for a tour. I can ask him.
Well, you know what? Tell him we're coming.
I'd be very interested to hear a price on that house.
But tell him that Chris and I are coming with a suitcase full of cash, so come up with an idea of what he's looking for.
Okay. It's a beautiful house. I mean, it's just gorgeous. It was made by a furniture manufacturer. The woodwork in the house is just spectacular, and you feel like you're walking back to time.
Wonderful.
Well, we have less than 2 minutes left. I want to thank you for being a wonderful guest, and I know you'll be writing another book, and you'll be coming on again, so you'll definitely have to come back. All the guests were fantastic. I just want to say thank you to everybody. Victor, Jeremy, you have anything you want to say?
Just want to say that this is a great show and remind our listeners that Joni's book is called Bones in the Basement, Surviving the S.K. Pierce Haunted Mansion, available from Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, your local bookstore, which we support, and from Joni's website. And, Joni, please give our listeners your website one more time.
It's JoniMayhan.com, JoniMayhan.com.
Wonderful.
Jeremy, anything you want to say?
I would like to thank our callers for joining us and our listeners for joining us also.
Well, that's outstanding, and I just want to say next week we have on a personal friend of all 3 of us. Her name is Erica Getch, and she is actually publishing her book this week. Very excited to talk to her. She's a very good friend of ours. And she has a very interesting story about alien abduction. So please, guys, listen in next week. It's going to be a great show. I think you guys are going to fall in love with Erica, and we're going to put it to the test. You can trust us on that. Victor, why don't you take us out?
Well, you have been listening to Vision Quest. He is psychic medium Chris George. The other friend of ours and great gentleman and a great guy is Jeremy Moonshine Adams. I am Victor the Voice Furman, and we work this way every week to take you one step closer to a new reality. Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Good night. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Or gals.
All right, that was a nice show, man. Joni did a phenomenal job, huh?
Yes,
no, you're great.
Joni, you still with us? Well, they're gone. They both did a great job. They were really good.
Absolutely.
Hey, Denny, are we off the air?
Yeah, it's 12 o'clock. We're up, yeah.
I think I still hear Joni.
Yeah, 12 o'clock the show dies, so we got it in. So anyway, I'm going to go to sleep, guys. Actually, I'm going to go jump in the pool first, and then I'm going to go to sleep. It's been a long week.
I want to know how many listeners we had before we go.
Oh, yeah. Denny, could you let us know how many listeners we had?
What's that, Chris?
Although we're trying to find out how many listeners we had tonight.
I'll have to wait.
You have to wait because this whole system was completely glitched.
Hey, Tiff.
Okay. Oh, is this Tiffany?
I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, this is Tiffany.
That's right here.
What's going on,
Ben's
Tiff?
here. Oh, not much. What's going on with you guys?
Same old. We're thinking we I was talking with Victor yesterday about trying to do a live streaming video show, and I don't know if you guys know anything about that, but we're very interested if you guys know anything about that.
Well, yeah, because we want to we're going to start offering our hosts try to start offering our hosts the ability to do that.
Well, that's perfect because that's exactly what I want to do, actually.
Now, Tiff, the question is, if we do, wait a minute, Tiff, if we do the show with video, is it clothing optional? That's all I want to know.
I prefer nakedness, but I guess if you want to wear a speedo or something, we could work on it.
Chris, when you said that Erica was a good friend of all three of us, Kenesha did her damnedest to hold in her laughter. It was hilarious.
Well, she's a friend of mine. She's a friend of Victor's, and you will eventually be a friend of hers. I'm guessing.
Yeah, I'll be nice, man. I'll be nice. I will. I'll be respectful because of the show. I let that shit go, and I'm higher than that.
Hey, Chris.
Well, that's good.
Chris?
Yes.
I was serious about making that drive tomorrow. If we can make it happen, I'll pick you up. We'll go.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have my son and my daughter this weekend. If it would have been a weekend without my kids, I'm telling you, I would be ready at the crack of dawn.
Oh, that's funny. I thought you said you had nothing tomorrow when I asked the question.
I just said that, but yeah, I have my son and my daughter this weekend.
Oh, okay. Obviously, that's more important.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, guys, I'm gonna say goodbye to everybody, and you guys did a great job as always.
Good show, you
Good night,
guys.
everybody.
Thank you for everything. Love to all of you.
Thank you,
Good night.
Tiff. Thank you, Danny. Good night. Good night, Jeremy.
Thank you. I love you guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.